Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are moving on to the next episode in my category breakdown series, and in this video, we are taking a look at Best International Feature Film. And as always, if you're new to this series, basically all this is just in every single one of these, every one of these videos, we're just going to take a look at the individual categories at the Oscars, and then take a look at all of the nominees in that category. So first, we're just going to, announce the nominees, and then talk about those that were nominated with that nomination, and then talk about just some facts about the film. And then at the end, we're going to give you my personal ranking and my predictions for how likely it is that I think they win the Academy Award on March 2nd. And especially for this video, just apologies in advance, a little bit of a warning. I am going to butcher a lot of the names and a lot of the pronunciations in this video, so just a heads up that I'm doing my best here, but I'm obviously not fluent in all of these languages, and so apologies in advance for mispronouncing any of these names here. And without further ado, let's take a look at the nominees. The first nominee is I'm Still Here, Brazil. This is Brazil's fifth nomination, and they're still looking for their first win. Their most recent nomination was in 1998 for Central Station, also directed by Walter Salles. Brazil's other nominations were for 4 Days in September in 1997, O Quatro in 1995, and Keeper of Promises in 1962. And one thing that's kind of fun and that's cool to point out here is typically in the Best International Film category at the Oscars, there's typically, I would say usually one film that is nominated here that's also like a Best Picture nominee. And then there's also, a second film that maybe, isn't a Best Picture nominee, but maybe has like one other nomination somewhere else. And then you'll have like three, if not four, that are just like only one nominee. In this year's category, in the international film category, there's three different films that have multiple nominations, including two that are in the Best Picture lineup. So this is one of those years where I do think there is a little bit of a race, and one of those films truly in that contention is I'm Still Here. And I mean, at this point, what more is there really to say about I'm Still Here and about the film that even if you haven't seen the film, just from what you've heard based off of the reviews and particularly in these videos and on YouTube, seeing all of the people from Brazil coming into the comment sections and showing their support and showing their energy and their passion for the film, it shows you, I think, instantly all that's going to show you is just the love and the passion that this film has. And I mean, it truly absolutely deserves all of that love and the passion that it's getting. I've now seen this film twice. I've saw it twice in theaters within the last week because I want to all of the Best Picture nominees I want to see twice for ranking purposes and to make sure that I'm just giving those the appreciation that they deserve. And for I'm Still Here, I said in my Best Picture crash course video that came out last week, I talked about how I think I'm Still Here is one of those films that it was great on the first watch, but I think on second watch is when I'm kind of a little bit more tuned into what the film is and what it's going for. I just think that I was going to appreciate it more and more, and that absolutely it was the case. I was in the right mindset, I was in the right kind of headspace for the drama that the film was going to be and kind of the more personal story as opposed to kind of trying to think of it as this big grand scheme, this grand scale thing. Just looking at it as a personal intimate story about this family, it really just helped me love and appreciate this film more. The acting from top to bottom, everyone, especially Fernanda Torres, but I mean, I was just blown away by the acting from all the kids in the family. There's just so much about I'm Still Here that, if you haven't seen it, go out and see it. It's in select theaters right now, and then I don't know exactly when, but hopefully soon it's going to get that digital release, so you'll be able to stream it and rent it if it's not playing near you. But just, I mean, absolutely go out of your way to see this film. And I do want to finish this section here of I'm Still Here talking about its chances at the Oscars. There is a chance that this wins Best International Film. I do believe that, and I think that even without it getting any of these precursors, I think it has that chance, and it could still it still has that opportunity. You're going to see here in a second, I'm not currently predicting it to do that, but I think that's what's going to make this, if I'm Still Here does win the Oscar for international film, I think that's what's going to make it so special, and it's going to make it this kind of this big moment, is because all the signs, there are some other factors again that we're going to talk about in a couple nominees when we get to what I'm currently predicting. there are some factors going on with that film that could lead this to the win. But again, all of the signs are still not quite pointing us that direction. So I'm not shutting the door on this yet. I'm just saying that I'm not going to really predict it. And you're going to, if you are going to predict it, you're really going to have to go out on, on the edge and just kind of really trust your gut and then hope that it comes true. So for my personal ranking, I'm putting I'm Still Here in first, and for my prediction, I'm putting it in second. The next nominee is The Girl with the Needle, Denmark. This is Denmark's 15th nomination, and they have 4 wins. Their most recent nominee, Another Round, won for Best International Film at the 2021 Oscars. Their other winners include In a Better World in 2011, Pele the Conqueror in 1989, and Babette's Feast in 1988. Now, admittedly, going into this film, The Girl with the Needle was the one in this category that I knew the least amount about. Like, obviously everything else here, I had either already seen it or I'd heard so much about the film or about just kind of the making of the film. So I was familiar with pretty much everything but The Girl with the Needle. And so I was kind of excited to go into this nearly, as blind as you possibly could go into a movie. And the things that stuck out the most with me about this film is, it is kind of this psychological drama that opens with some kind of disturbing imagery, just kind of the way that it's a film shot in black and white, but the opening scene before we even really get into the story, it's kind of setting up the film and it's kind of setting the atmosphere, and you're getting these distorted kind of faces and things that are happening, and I was instantly just kind of on edge of, oh, I wasn't expecting this. I didn't know, I wasn't expecting really anything, but it definitely wasn't whatever I'm currently getting. And so I was already kind of just bought into the atmosphere, into the mood of this film. And then as the film continues on, obviously it kind of continues more into kind of getting a little bit more into the narrative structure, and then there's kind of some stretches of the film that aren't necessarily working with me, but then there's just some stretches where it is firing on all cylinders, and it is tense and it's suspenseful. And and this is another thing too, when you're watching, for me in particular, when as an American watching these international films, you kind of are getting this sense in a lot of these where you don't necessarily know where it's going, because every now and then you'll get some international films that are kind of told in kind of the standard way of maybe how a story, something from Hollywood would be told here. You're kind of going from start to finish and it's kind of hitting all the points. But every now and then you'll get these films that you don't realize necessarily how this director or how this country, how this is influencing the way that they're making their films. And so there's a lot of these scenes in this film that I'm just, as it's going on, I'm like, I don't know where this is going. I don't know how dark this is going to get. I don't know how just intense this is going to get, and I really loved that. A lot of the things that I love about this film as well, the cinematography is great, the acting from top to bottom is good. The score in this was just like haunting at times, and this is one of those that I wish The Girl with the Needle, I wish it got a little bit more buzz, outside of just international, because like their things, their cinematography, the score, the costume design, even the production design, and some of the sets and some of the locations that they're in, there's a lot of things about this film that like it could have been in contention in other categories. That's like how great a lot of this is and how it came together. And the thing for me that really kind of hit me is once it kind of got to the end of this film, and I can't remember if they put it in the opening title credits. I feel like if they did, I just missed it and I didn't see it. But when the film ends and it says inspired or based on a true story, that kind of hit me of like, oh, this thing that I just watched that is kind of creepy and has these horrific elements, all of a sudden you get to the end and this was based off of real events. That just made me kind of love and appreciate, I think, this film more than I thought I would, as I started the film. So for my personal ranking, I'm putting The Girl with the Needle in fourth, and for my prediction, I'm putting it in fifth. The next nominee is Emilia Perez, France. This is France's 39th nomination, and they have 9 wins. They won for Indochine in 1993, Get Out Your Handkerchiefs in 1979, Madame Rosa in 1978, Day for Night in 1974, The Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie in 1973, A Man and a Woman in 1967, Sundays in Cybele in 1963, Black Orpheus in 1960, and My Uncle in 1959. Their most recent nomination was in 2020 for Les Miserables. And here is that film that I was talking about, obviously, when we were talking about I'm Still Here's chances in the category. This is another one of those, we've talked about Emilia Perez in I guess at this point it's been at least 10, if not 30. Yeah, it's been at least 10 videos so far on this channel doing these category breakdowns that we've been talking about Emilia Perez. So, and I don't know if there's necessarily anything else I can continue saying at this point that's going to continue adding to how I and a lot of people kind of feel about Emilia Perez. And I do think that what we're going to see here when we get to my personal and my predictions is you're going to see something that I don't think you're really going to ever see in any other category. At least I don't think I ever did it last year. I don't think I'm doing it in any other category this year. So something kind of a little interesting coming up. And just talking about Emilia Perez briefly, I want to just a brief kind of talk about the film and how I do think that there are parts of this film that are okay, and it's a decent enough film at times. But I just ultimately think this is one of those films that is just kind of messy, and there is just too much going on. There are too many different plot lines, there's too many characters, there's too many things, and ultimately what it did is, maybe some of the things aren't necessarily done well because there's just too much, you can't quite capture it, but there's a lot of things that are done in the film that are not well done because it just didn't seem like the effort was put into whether it's researching the topic that you're discussing or just kind of the understanding of here's how we're wanting to kind of delicately and I don't want to say professionally but humanely kind of talk about some of these topics. And so I just think that I personally, I think I like Emilia Perez a little bit more than a lot of people do, but even I'm not the biggest fan, and I do think that there is just so much about this film that just doesn't quite work as well as it could have. So those are my quick brief thoughts on the film. I've repeated this multiple times in a lot of these different videos at this point. What I'm more interested in talking about here in this video specifically is its chances of winning really any Oscars, but obviously specifically this Oscar, the Best International Film. I do think that Emilia Perez, with the controversies and with everything going on with Carlos Sofia Gascon, as well as Jacques Audiard, the director, their comments and their past interviews and tweets and things that are resurfacing, and the whole mess that is kind of feels like it's been tainting the film a little bit. I think what we've started to see over these precursors and previous awards shows is that Zoe Saldana and pretty much Zoe Saldana. Anything Zoe Saldana related has been fine. So Zoe Saldana, she's still on track to win her Oscar. El Mal, the song is fine. Even though Carlos Sofia Gascon is in that song, it doesn't matter. It's not affecting those categories. I think where Emilia Perez is being affected is in a lot of the crafts categories, which I don't even necessarily know if that's true because I don't think Emilia Perez was going to really ever win any of those crafts categories. In every category that it's nominated, like Wicked or Dune or The Substance, like another big tech player is also nominated, so it never really, I don't think it had much of a shot in a lot of those categories to begin with. Where I think Emilia Perez is going to be affected by these controversies and where I don't think people are comfortable voting for Emilia Perez is in the categories representing those two, Jacques Audiard and especially Carlos Sofia Gascon, and then the two categories, picture and international, where your vote is just a vote for the film. You're not even awarding like the crafts or the specific individual things. You're just saying, I'm voting for this film. And this is where you have to kind of have where I think the discussion has been had of, do we think that these controversies and the drama and everything going on with this film, is it going to tank its chances in these categories? I don't think we're going to ever really know with Best Picture because even despite leading nominations and everything, even on Oscar nomination morning, I didn't think Emilia Perez was the frontrunner and I never really thought it was going to win Picture. International is the category where it could have won, and probably, like you're going to see here, I think it still is going to win, but this is now the one category where it's the most up in the air for me of if there is some substance to the idea of voters not wanting to vote for Emilia Perez, this is the category where I think we could see the surprise win and the fall off. And so I do think that ultimately what's happening is maybe the Emilia Perez is on a little bit of a downward trend in terms of likelihood of winning this category, and it's combined with I'm Still Here skyrocketing, and not only just skyrocketing in terms of the public perception, but in terms of it getting actress, it getting international film, and then it getting Best Picture, in the Oscar nominations. It feels like we have two films that are just on a different, like a very drastic, different trajectories, right? And so ultimately, it's the films are going to meet in the middle. Do they meet by, I guess, a couple days ago was when Oscar voting closed, did Emilia Perez still have enough support to win the category, or is there going to be enough of a shift to I'm Still Here? Ultimately, like I said earlier, you're going to see that I'm not predicting it, but I'm not completely ruling it out, and it would be for me, one of the most fun Oscar surprises in the 6 7 years that I've been watching the Oscars. It would be one of the most exciting things to see happen. So for my personal ranking, I'm putting Emilia Perez in fifth, and for my prediction, I'm putting it in first. The next nominee is The Seed of the Sacred Fig, Germany. This is Germany's 22nd nomination, and they have 4 wins. They won in 2023 for All Quiet on the Western Front, 2007 for The Lives of Others, 2003 for Nowhere in Africa, and in 1980 for The Tin Drum. Their most recent nomination was last year for The Teacher's Lounge. The Seed of the Sacred Fig is another one of these where I didn't necessarily know a whole ton about it other than just the buzz and kind of the stuff about the production that I had kind of been hearing from other channels and stuff that I watch on YouTube, and so just based off of that alone, that was kind of the introduction to the film that I had, was just kind of the idea of it being a story. And again, apologies, I'm sure I'm butchering all of these names, but Muhammad Rasulov, the director, understanding that he made this film is a kind of a protest film about his own country, and made it in secret, filmed in his country, and then had to flee the country. As after the film was, I think it was even before the film had been made. I think they had just finished shooting when they learned that he had made this film, and so he kind of had to just flee the country to be able to edit and get it all together in Germany. And now Germany is submitting, an international film about Iran. Kind of this story that you hear about that before you ever even see the film, and that's kind of what kind of hooked me, was just kind of the idea of the real world impact that this film is having on just the lives of those involved in the story, as I mean, in terms of like the country, but just also in terms of those that made the film. Hearing about some of the crew that had been arrested and all of this stuff going on with this film, it's just something that you hear about it, and it becomes a film that you have to see, because you have to understand what is this story that was so important for everyone here to tell. And The Seed of the Sacred Fig, it really is, it is impactful. It is a emotional kind of a film that is really led by the actors specifically in this film. Is really, they bring it in this film. It is a 2 hour and 46 I think it's 2 hours and 46 minutes long, and the entire time the acting is what really is kind of compelling you to the story, as well as just, I mean, in terms, I mean, the script as well of what this story is. This kind of this protest film about kind of the government and how things are being run in Iran, and the idea of kind of the kind of, I'm trying to think of like the best words to describe it, just kind of the way that it is versus kind of the progressive mind state of some of the youth, especially like the women in this story. And the film really ultimately sets up this beautiful and complex thing where you have this family that is kind of representing the country as a whole, the dynamics of this family kind of representing the power struggle in this country. And I think what you get is, you get 2/3 of this film that is just this very emotional, personal family drama about the kind of the conflict, and about what the dad does and how the daughters feel about that. And then you've got the mom, who's kind of in the middle, trying to appease to both sides, is trying to be compassionate with the daughters when they're alone, but whenever the dad's around, has to take the dad's side, and is kind of very mean and upfront and rude to her daughters at times. But it's just because she's kind of having to play both sides of this family struggle. And it really does just creates this compelling narrative. And then you get to the third act of the film that kind of becomes this real thriller, kind of this kind of chase, and kind of I'm trying to again just think of the best words without really kind of giving anything away, but this real, I guess, suspense thriller is the best way to describe it. And I do think that that is a thing that I've heard that some people maybe don't necessarily love as much as the first 2 acts. I think I still liked it, and I think I liked it for what it is, as it was a really well made thriller, kind of in that the end. I will say that the final scene, there was moments that kind of took me out a little bit. The very final moments of the film are excellent. I would say maybe it's like the last like 5-ish minutes or so are really good, but it's kind of a little bit right before that that's kind of setting up the final moments that I just wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of, but there is still a lot about the film that is just compelling and gripping and completely had me just hooked the entire time I was watching this film. So for my personal ranking, I'm putting The Seed of the Sacred Fig in third, and for my prediction, I'm putting it in third. And the final nominee is Flow, Latvia. This is Latvia's first nomination. Not only is it the country's first nomination, it's also the first time they've been shortlisted. The last 3 years, Latvia submitted My Freedom, January, and The Pit. Now you had both Emilia Perez and I'm Still Here, the films in this category that got Best Picture nominations, and then you get to Flow here at the bottom that has the best animated film nomination as well. And so you get this film, and I think of Flea is another animated international film, kind of getting that 1-2 combo. Typically there are, every now and then that happens, where you'll get an international film that kind of goes out and gets something else. This is one of those that, for it being an animated film and getting international film, at least in what is it? Is it the Critics' Choice? I think it's the Critics' Choice is where their category is foreign language film, and so I think it was kind of, people thought it was a little odd that this was getting nominated for foreign language when there isn't really any language. It is a film where you are following these animals, and you're following kind of in this like this disaster has happened, and you're kind of in the aftermath of that, and you're kind of just following the story of how this, I mean, the cat obviously is the main character, is the poster animal, and you're kind of following this cat, and then you're seeing all of the friends that it's kind of making along this journey, and all of these different animals that are kind of having to rescue themselves and kind of band together and kind of group together to ultimately just save themselves together. And so it's just this kind of this beautiful story about just kind of coming together and helping one another, and surviving with what you have, and just the elements that you're in, and making the best of it. And so there's a lot of that I think is just really well done, and it is kind of heartwarming, this film, at times. There's a lot of it too that is very suspenseful, and moments that just kind of make you sad or can kind of choke you up a little bit when you kind of are, if you're thinking about if this was a real thing. Like, obviously if you're watching this, like, this is a real story really happening to these animals, there's a lot that can kind of get you choked up and get you emotional. But really, ultimately, the takeaway for me is just, really, it comes down to just how beautiful the film is. And what makes the film so beautiful, there's kind of the three big elements, of whether it's because there's no dialogue, so it's the sound design, it's the score of the film is absolutely beautiful, and it's the cinematography. Those three coming together is really what just creates this very immersive and very captivating film, this very fun and just breathtaking experience watching this film. There are so many shots, so many stills of this film where I was just kind of blown away by the imagery that you're seeing. And obviously it's computer animated, so you're able to kind of create it how you want, but I mean, to still be able to create the looks and to be able to frame and put the cinematography in a way that really, ultimately, this is an example I use a lot when any film I think has good cinematography. Is I say, like, there's so many moments where I just want to be able to just like take a picture of the screen and like have that hanging in my house. Like, it's that beautiful of a piece, and of just the imagery that you're seeing. There's so much about it that is just beautiful, and ultimately this is one of those films that a lot of the other four films in this category, they're all pretty heavy. Flow is the one that is kind of while there is still stressful and emotional moments, ultimately it's the one that just kind of makes you feel, I guess, the happiest, and it's the one that is kind of the warm hug of a film, it feels like, in this category. And so I think that's part of why I just love Flow so much. And for my personal ranking, I'm putting Flow in second, and for my prediction, I'm putting it in fourth. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know down below in the comments what you thought of these nominees, and what film are you rooting for to win. I'm guessing that it's mostly going to be a lot of people saying that they're rooting for I'm Still Here. But I appreciate it, because that's what I'm rooting for as well in the category. So let me know all of that down below in the comments below. And also, if you would like to like this video and then subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future episodes in the category breakdown series, I would appreciate it. And have a great day.